There comes a time in every parent's life when they have to make a decision. Turn the other cheek or stand up for what they believe in. This is the battle of a father whose determination is so great, it's unlike anything else. A love so strong that sets new boundaries. A man whose sole purpose in life is to heal the parents, to better the children, to change our future. A battle so great, only one man stands up to the challenge, and this is his battle.
Casualties of war, warriors against the regime. The civil rights movement has not ended. On 9/11/2016, alienated parents from all over America came together to march on Washington like so many of the great ones have done before.
Are you ready?
Yeah!
Mr. President, can't you see?
Mr. President, can't you see?
What the courts have done to me?
What the courts have done to me?
They went and took our kids away.
They went and took our kids away.
That's why we're marching here today.
That's why we're marching here today.
Mr. President, can't you see?
Mr. President, can't you see?
Won't you come stand next to me?
Won't you come stand next to me?
The courts took our kids away.
The courts took our kids away.
That's why we're standing here today.
That's why we're standing here today.
How you guys doing today? Oh, I know you're tired. How you doing today? My name is Cass Jackson. I am a United States Navy veteran of 20 years of naval service. I was discharged from the Navy honorably on 31 August 2016. And on 1 September, I launched a 3,000-mile journey from Washington State to Washington, D.C. I came all the way over here to talk to the Commander-in-Chief. I want to talk to the President about the Fatherhood Initiative. I want to talk to him about how he challenged me as a father to step up to the plate. So here we are. Me and my fellow brothers and sisters are stepping up to the plate, sir. But you guys keep moving the plate further away from us.
According to the U.S. Census Bureau, over 20 million American children grow up without their biological father.
I haven't seen my son since November, and this is almost June. And this shit ain't right. I mean, this shit ain't right. It's killing me over here. My son deserves to have a father. Every child deserves to have both parents in their life. This shit has got to change. This shit has to change.
I got started in this movement approximately 5 years ago. During my own divorce, I was devastated. My own children were taken from me, and I was denied access to them.
The majority of my life, I grew up without my dad. As crazy as it seems, my mom basically kept my dad from seeing me and my sister.
Today is July 12th, 2016, and I haven't seen my kids since December, Christmas, 2013.
Anything you want to say? You're being accused of shooting a cop, killing him.
Society not letting me see my son. I lashed out at somebody that didn't deserve it.
The first time I was involved with the family court system, I was about 7 years old, and my father and my mother were going through a divorce of their own. I was subjected to parental alienation as a child with one side of my family conspiring against my mother, and I grew up not knowing my mother. She passed away about 10 years ago.
You know, I've been going through this battle, if you will, for 32 years, since 1984. I started out a victim myself. I was falsely accused of molesting my 3-year-old daughter, wound up in handcuffs in Jacksonville, Florida, Duval County, 1985. I basically found myself having to prove a negative in my innocence. Didn't know that. I thought this was America. You're innocent until proven guilty.
My name is W.A.R. Regime. I'm a professional fighter. I represented the United States of America in 1996 Olympic Games as a boxer, 119 pounds. I turned pro afterwards, became 3-time champion, 3 different weight divisions. The toughest fight of my life was fighting for my daughter, and it wasn't against her mother, but the court system.
Finally not being able to pay my attorney. So she struck her appearance in my court case, which led me to either let the allegations stick or start defending myself.
Hello, I'm Cleveland James, a Marine who used to guard the President of the United States, and now, due to parental alienation, I can't even see my own daughter.
I am a retired New York City police officer. I served the city of New York from 1989 to 2013. I don't really have any blemishes on my record. I did serve on September 11th, 2001. I worked patrol that day. I was assigned as a driver to a sergeant. And I was down at ground zero almost every day until the cleanup was done.
I got one I ain't seen in 15 years, and I don't even know what she looks like. I don't know what the emotions gonna be like when I first get to meet her. Like I said, I try to find them on Facebook, Google, any search engine, just to look for my daughter. And I'm just hoping and praying one day when I get to meet her that she'll understand that it wasn't me.
I really hooked up with a woman that is, quite frankly, a narcissistic sociopath.
I was alienated from my daughter, Tanea Norwood, when she was only 2 years old in the year 2000.
My name is Neil Shelton. I spent 11 months in a jail cell with a guy who murdered my best friend, all for a divorce. I am a casualty of war.
Hello, my name is Dr. Carlos Rivera. I'm a pediatrician in New York. I'm also an alienated father. I have 4 children. One of my children was alienated from me 4 years ago. She hasn't spoken to me in 4 years' time. Sadly, my son fell also victim to alienation, and he hasn't spoken to me for about 3 months now. Luckily, I still have 2 children that have a wonderful relationship, and for that reason, I continue to fight for the rights of alienated parents and parents subjected to family court.
I had no legal rights because she had a fiance, and her fiance believed it was his daughter, and he named her. Took a blood test, it was my daughter. He understood that, he left. She was bitter and she used the court systems against me. All I'm a victim of is trying to be a father to my child.
When I was 19, I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. His dad and I split up when he was a year old. We went back and forth in court for about a year and a half. Me fighting for sole custody, his dad wanting joint. Of course, I won because, well, I'm a woman.
My daughter died. No one told me. And her mother still collected child support from me.
We bickered back and forth for years. He was reduced to being a visitor in his son's life, our son's life. He had every other weekend. He got behind on child support at one point, and I didn't let him see his son for the one weekend because I was mad about child support, so I essentially put a price on my son. And the next weekend that he was coming to get him, he had made plans to take our son bowling for his birthday, and they had planned to go fishing. He didn't come because he passed away in a car accident.
I don't need the system to help me raise my children. I have 6 children. I've raised 2 of them are adults now. I did a great job and raised them myself pretty much. Their mom did what she had to do to help out, but she didn't allow the system to come in and force me to raise my own kids. Therefore, me and my kids have a wonderful relationship now. So I would hope that anybody else would learn that, let me do my own thing, let me raise my own kids, and we'll be fine.
My experience in the court system was a breeze. I was given everything that I wanted. I was encouraged by family, friends, lawyers, judges even. That has to change. The system has to change. This is not right. It should not have been a win for me. It should not have been a loss for his father. The one who suffered in the end was our son. And now he's going to go without his dad, and he barely knew him. It has to change. You'll regret it. I regret it every day.
I hate the way it looks from the outside. People judge you. Do you see your kids and everything? And it's more complicated than just seeing them, you know? There's a lot of backstory behind the reasons why a dad doesn't get to see his kid.
It's called the silver bullet technique.
It's so common, it's known as the silver bullet.
It's called the silver bullet by men's rights and fathers' rights guys.
So what that is use either very dubious allegations of abuse or just flat out false.
This is called sexual allegations in divorce, the SAID syndrome. He said, she said, what a child said. There's a chapter in my book by the same title, the SAID syndrome.
You're either making a mountain out of a molehill or you're just flat out lying. And you use these allegations of abuse to get a restraining order. And the reason you use a restraining order is it's much easier to get a restraining order than to put somebody through the criminal process.
The voice of God just came down from out of nowhere. It just said, get up, dry your tears, and do as I say do. I went downtown the next day. I put my name on everything and I started representing myself. Once the attorneys knew I meant business, we had a battle, because now I had the same privilege that the attorneys had with the judges to talk directly to the judges. And going back and forth for over a period of 5 years, back and forth, I was determined to, number one, not be that person who I was alleged to be. And number two, I wanted to show the attorneys that they wasn't dealing with no incompetent person.
My children mean everything to me, and for me to be stripped away from them, it would crush me. But it would crush me more so because I know what they would be faced with without me. You know, a father that wants to be in his child's life, especially in the Black community, it's a commodity. It's a commodity that you cannot, shortchange. Because so many of us grew up without fathers that we don't value being them. So when you find a man who's like, I have to be in my kid's life, no matter what, you need to allow that. You need to be an enabling factor in that.
High Point University said they estimated 23 million alienated parents that's not allowed to be involved with their children's lives.
Everybody's affected, everybody. I mean, when you say 150 million, I'd almost say we got 320 million in the U.S. Actually, 320 million are affected in some way.
Exactly.
Somebody knows somebody, a brother, a nephew, a cousin, that's involved in this.
The underlying problem, though, is just like cancer. Until somebody tells you you have cancer, you sympathize for people with cancer, but you don't care.
Right.
Until family law, until you are separated from your children, until you lose everything, you don't care.
So I typed in her name in Facebook. Maybe her mom let her put up a page. Hopefully. At least I just want to see a picture of her. I haven't seen her, heard her voice many years. The only thing I have is my memory and a couple old pictures. First thing that pops up is her obituary. No one let me know. She didn't let me know. Child Support Services did not let me know. No one. Be it, this is months after she passed. Months after she passed. What kind of person could do that to somebody?
You have never heard me complain about missing my Ferrari. You've never heard me complain about missing my house, and you've never heard me complain about missing my money. The only thing important to me is my children.
Absolutely, and that, it's the apathy of, the state of the nation is, it was kind of like what you had during the Jim Crow era, and when the large civil rights movement began, where you had so much of a nation who was used to the status quo. They were used to the oppression of minorities, and they were very apathetic to the plight of minorities during that time frame. And it was kind of, well, it doesn't affect me, so it's not really an issue. Yes. We've seen it for so long, it's normal to us. Yep. And because they weren't part of the suffering, they weren't suffering themselves, it was very difficult for them to get themselves into forcing change, where change had to be, where it had to be done.
54 years later, still fighting for our God-given constitutional rights.
In the state of Illinois, where my case is at, I was only given 4 hours out of the month to be with my child. And I had to pay to see my own children. $30 an hour to see my own children. Yep. But yet, on that same hand, in Southern Illinois, in the Menard Correctional Facility, a maximum security facility, a convicted murderer can get 10 hours a month with their child. And they don't pay anything. Now, granted, they are incarcerated. But what you see is we even know and understand that even somebody in prison, they need that family connection.
So a lot of these cases involve men and fathers who have been wrongly accused of domestic violence, physical child abuse, sexual child abuse, dads who are basically part-time distant dads, not seeing their kids like they should be. Perhaps the mother has custody, she's just violating the court order. Or dad has very limited what I call Disneyland dad visitation rights, and part-time with his kid.
My firm represents men in family law matters. Been doing this since 2009, and I started the Isaac Law Firm because there's a huge need for good ethical representation of men in divorces. Men are what I found to be, this is not only my personal experience growing up, I've been on every side of the system, and I've found that men are really at a disadvantage in family law court for no other reason other than they're men.
So I want to know, will you defund Title 4D of the Social Security Act, which takes money from Social Security, incentivizes state courts to take one parent, normally the father, reduces them down to a visitor, to justify a child support order so that the state can receive money through Title 4D of the Social Security Act? Because for every dollar that the state is spending in child support enforcement, based on their performance of that collection process, they can then take myself as a father and give me less than 20% of time with my children, and that is resulting in over 20 million American children growing up without a biological parent.
That I am aware of just what you're talking about, having talked to hundreds over those years in that same position that you're in. As President of the United States, I will do everything I can to address this inequality that in fact does exist.
Thank you.
It makes sense if the kids fall victim, trapped in the fine line of the court system. My 2-year-old was stripped from my arms, restrained completely and given to a mom. And there wasn't even one cat call. No violent reports at all, but they hit me with a DV charge. Civil court, no arrest, yet I took the fall.
Yep, making it worse. That's what I am.
Okay, dad's right there, suddenly he goes
I'm a father making it worse.
How's a toddler gonna comprehend that? How's a mom's not gonna condemn that? And all I ever asked for was equal time. But the judge looked at me like my daughter ain't mine. Ripped me apart no matter how hard I try. Over and over, trust me, it ain't right.
My parents were divorced when I was very young, and so I didn't know anything other than living as a divorced child. But my mother was, I don't know how other to call her other than she was a sociopath and a narcissist. She kept us from our father. There were times we didn't see our father at all for long, extended periods of time, despite his attempts. And he was a firefighter who worked shift work, and so you can imagine, and this was in the 80s, they were not father-friendly at all. The courts were not very father-friendly in 2016, much less in the 80s, so there was very little option for him at that time. So I went to join the military, got an education. That was my only option for an education, and became a child therapist. And As a child therapist, I worked at an inpatient residential psychiatric hospital for children, and then I worked in a private practice with a psychiatrist. And working with these kids, I really found that the common denominator was bad moms and absent dads.
Father's Day 2012 was the last time I was allowed to see or speak to my children.
This doesn't just happen to men, this also happens to women. Mothers are alienated as well.
I'm personally a victim of a corrupt family law system, and I'm here to support other parents today in cash as we try to advocate for our constitutional rights that continue to be violated by family law judges and attorneys who work together to conspire to pimp our kids in the name of law.
I have 13 children. I have 5 by my first husband and 8 by my current husband. 8 of my children were taken away by defects.
I haven't seen my daughter since January 12, 2013.
We were living beside the lady who had 2 of my children. Well, actually 1 because they kept putting Savannah in the home with me. She'd come out to my house. This is the lady, she just got my case. She'd come out to my house. Kenneth was at work, and I had Savannah. And she come up to me and she said, Brandy, she said, I got a deal for you if you want to do it. I know y'all are having a hard time, and it is really hard with that many children. And she said, she looked at me and said, if you work with me and sign your rights to your 5 kids, the first 5 kids, actually there was 3, my bad, 3 children at the time of my first marriage. If you would sign them over, I will work with you to get the mixed children. And so I was like, no, they're all my children. I'm not doing that. I want all my children. I don't look at that. And then she was like, well, I just don't, she got an attitude and she was like, well, I just don't think it's appropriate for a black man to raise your white girls.
My name is Gwendolyn Chubb. I'm 46 years old. I live in Chicago, Illinois. I have 2 beautiful babies that I haven't seen in 8 years. 8 years. My daughter is 14. She'll be 15 on Tuesday. My son is 12. I'm not allowed any contact with them at all. No phone calls, no emails, no birthday presents. I'm restricted from getting any medical records, school records, talking to the doctor. How is this possible? I have no criminal history, nothing, not even shoplifting. I have no history of drug or alcohol abuse, no charges of neglect or abuse. Department of Children and Family Service don't even know me. Nobody has even said I'm a bad mother. So how is this possible that I can't see my children, talk to them, and they're being told by their father that your mother don't want you, she abandoned you? Do you know what this is doing to my children? My daughter's having panic attacks. She's 14.
Hello.
Hello, Catherine. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. My name is Yahya McLean. I'm doing some background research for a documentary called Casualties of W.A.R, and I would like to speak to you. I would like to speak to you about one of the subjects featured in the project, Miss Gwendolyn Chubb.
Oh, I'm afraid I can't talk to you about that. I'm the child representative in the case.
Right, that's exactly what we wanted to speak to you about.
Yeah, there's attorney-client privilege between the children and me, so it would be inappropriate to speak with you. I'm sorry.
Well, would you be able to tell me why Miss Chubb was not allowed to have any contact with her child?
The court file speaks for itself.
Yeah, could you tell me where?
You can access that at the Daily Center, and there's the judge has made specific findings with respect to why Ms. Chubb is prohibited from speaking or having contact with her children. So I don't want to speak for the judge or the court. That's well documented in the court file.
This is for a new order of protection?
No, it's not. It's to continue the current order of protection that's in place for an additional period of years.
I went to get a divorce in 2001 because my ex-husband was beating me. I just wanted to be safe. We went to court. The judge said, okay, what do you want to do? Me and my ex, we go to mediation. He said, let her keep the children. She's a wonderful mother. I was a stay-home mom. All he wanted was visitation every other weekend. Somehow, 3 weeks later, I get an order saying that I showed up to court and gave my babies to this man who had knifed me all up. I know God. And I thank him every day because I don't even know how I'm still able to walk around, work, and live and act like everything is normal when this is my world. This box, this closet, this is my world. I'm boxed in. Everybody say, oh, gotta be something more to the story. Well, yeah, that's an easy way to say I'm not gonna get involved with that. My family is even scared to get involved. They scared to come to court. My mother and father, they got rights to see their grandchildren. They cut off. How is that possible? How is... God, Lord, I don't understand how we live in America. Abandoned children, babies taken and dropped off at the fire station or whatever. And I can't see my children. I'm cut off from my children. They never mind the rights, the Constitution. I'm saying that fundamentally, if there is no abuse, neglect, or anything, children need both parents. I'm not trying to put mother against. I just want my children. Oh God. God. If you're a parent, I can't even ask you to imagine the pain that I have to live with every day. Anybody who knew me, you can go back and look at the pictures of me on my Facebook page where my skin was clear. And I've had two biopsies since 2008. Had a stroke in 2010. And do you know what? When I realized that something was wrong, that I was, my arm was getting numb, my head was hurt so bad, and I felt like just like my hair was going to explode. I got ready to dial 911. And do you know what I said? I said, thank you, God. Thank you. I said, because I would rather die than live like this because it's killing me every day slowly. I got these hives. Every time it's time to go to court, I get these big hives with pus coming out of them. And they leave these black marks and they bleed. And I know people want to ask me, but you don't want the answer. You don't want to know the answer. You don't want to believe that this is happening or could happen because I don't know if you heard the term cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance. Where your mind can't accept what is happening. So it just decide we're going to make up an alternate reality. That must be what the judges and attorneys are experiencing in Cook County. Because for this corruption to just be allowed to go on and flourish at the expense of my babies. What about my babies?
So now we have psychologists working with the kids, programs working with the kids, all that money from the federal government. And now with this Families First prevention, the prevention is on foster care. Prevention services of Act of 2016 will make it possible that any federal money will only be to help families within the home for at least a year. And then if children need to be removed, you can only get the federal money if they're placed with family. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, family, because family is what matters. Dads are what matters. Moms are what matters. Grandparents. I'm raising 3 grandchildren. I didn't have CPS involvement, thank God, but I will be happy to return my 3 grandchildren when my daughter recovers. And that's the way it should be, but that's not what foster parents want. They want to adopt your child.
Title IV-E is the major source of federal funding for educating and training the child welfare workforce. The Title IV-E Child Welfare Training Program was created as a part of the Child Welfare and Adoption Assistance Act of 1980 to support training in both foster care and adoption services. But the federal funding incentivizes the states to place children that are loved by good, fit parents into foster care.
For this lady to say what she thought of me just because of my skin color is ridiculous. She did not know me. When she even was in my house, she barely looked at me or barely had anything to say to me. Strange thing is though, Landon, the youngest, he called me daddy. I raised him ever since he was 2 until he actually went to foster care. He hung around me, he stayed with me. I love that boy. To me, that was my first son. So whatever she says, she's ignorant, and I don't care what she thinks, but I think people need to be let known that racism still is here, and that cruelty and manipulation in the world still is here. And so people need to be aware of this. Just because you're in the government, just because you wear a badge or your suit, you got a card, you're still could be a bad person.
There was a warrant issued for my arrest and my mother for kidnapping. I had friends call me and ask me why was my daughter's picture at 4 years old on the back of a Vibe magazine saying missing. Please call if you have any information. It was terrifying. So the police called the FBI, missing child. Police called. They called and told me and my mother that we need to turn ourselves in because I dropped my daughter to my mother's house and I went to my fight. I had a boxing match on ESPN at the time. Well, I wasn't going to turn myself in. I had to fight in 24 hours. I couldn't do it. I would do it afterwards, especially for something that was false, allegations. My mother turns herself in, which all in itself broke my heart. I didn't even know how I was going to fight with so much pressure on my head, with so much pressure on me about my daughter and my mother. So my mother drives from Virginia to Philadelphia with my daughter, turns herself in. The police takes my daughter. My daughter's mother was there. When the police kind of understood that just didn't seem right for someone to kidnap a child and then return him, bring him back when the police asked. So they took my child, they didn't give him back to her mother. They put her in foster care. And this is where it all begins.
So my kids were in the custody of their mother, along with her third husband after me. And at some point in time, there was a domestic fight between the two of them where weapons were used and hands were put on each other in front of my kids. Police were called, Child Protective Service was called, and she made statements at that time that to them, they didn't see that it was best interest for my kids to stay there at their house. So without my knowledge, without even calling me to give me a chance at that time to get my children, they turned the custody over to her father. Her father then, after about 3 months, decided that it was too much for him, and without notifying me again or notifying the mother, he turned them over to the state of Kentucky, signed them over, and they were placed in foster care.
I've been confined to my home for
2.5, well, going on 2 years, and I'll probably be confined for another 2 years until my appeal is complete.
I've been on house arrest for 2 years now for wanting to be in my daughter's life and being a father.
This is all over the start of a divorce. The divorce attorney lives less than a mile, less than a tenth of a mile from Christopher Morano. So it's very, dubious that she and Christopher Morano hang out together every day, and all of a sudden my ex, along with the divorce attorney, now has a criminal attorney that she's hired to convict me of crimes I never committed. This is what happens in the state of Connecticut, and the judges allow it, the prosecutors allow it, everybody allows this nonsense to happen, and there's absolutely nothing any average citizen can do as long as someone's willing to pay for the abuse.
What is the cause of that?
It's, I know what the cause of it is. It's political clout. It's this man, Blackie Pasoli, who has been involved in Chicago politics for about 60 years now. He runs the show. He runs all of the judges, all of the policemen, and he's made it clear that I should give up or I'm going to lose my life and lose my freedom.
And are you afraid?
Yes, I am.
Have you ever contemplated taking your own life?
Yes, I actually tried last year.
What happened? What did you do? What prevented it?
I was in jail, and my attorney just came in and said that they added additional charges, and that they were now charging me with 9 felonies, and my chances of getting out of jail were slim and none. And I just went back in my jail cell, and I just I couldn't think straight. I just didn't want to live anymore. So I took my t-shirt off, and I ripped it in half, and I soaked it under some water and made a loop out of it, and I put it around the bars, and I jumped, and I woke up to a Chicago fireman who they called, and they cut the t-shirt from my neck, and he actually asked me to pray with him, and he told me that whatever was going on in my life, that it wasn't worth killing myself. And I spent about 2 days in the hospital after that, and then they brought me to Cook County Jail, where I sat for about 4 or 5 days until they were able to go into bond court and get an actual bond for me, and I posted bond and came home.
And aren't you glad that it didn't go through?
After the last 2 years of hell, I go back and forth with this. I've been in hell the last 2 years, and I really don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. I don't see any hope. I mean, I don't know.
So I was working on Dominic Tomasello's story starting in the summer of 2015 through the fall and winter. And as I was getting close to finishing the first story, I received a call from a blocked number, and the voicemail was left, and the voicemail threatened me, said that I was going to be in trouble if I continued to work on the story.
Fucking around with it, you like the story, you're going to find out you're going to be in trouble.
That's it.
One more time.
Short, sweet, and to the point.
Fucking around with it, you like the story, you're going to find out you're going to be in trouble.
So I'm on house arrest for the supposed or alleged crime of threatening a judge. I sent an email to 6 people. This email was never intended for the judge. It was a private communication. One of these people, by the name of Jennifer Verno, took that email. She then recrafted a new document, a text image document, and sent it to this woman by the name of Linda Allard, who also is funded and works for the court system, in the family court system, she works for DCF. So she then took this recrafted text document and then sent it on to the marshals, the judicial marshals that run and manage security in the court. The chief judicial marshal, his name is Brian Clemens. Brian Clemens has a 2-year pastry certificate from St. John's College in upstate New York. He's the chief judicial marshal in charge of all the marshals in the state courthouse. He then took that and sent it to the state police and said that I had sent it to the judge, and I threatened the judge with that text document, which I never created and I never sent to a judge. So he got his job from his father, who was a big political contributor and a real estate mogul here in the state of Connecticut, and most importantly in Hartford. So his daddy called up a few people, and he's now the head judicial marshal for the state marshals that run all the courthouse security and run all the prisoner exchange within the courthouses, to and from courthouses and to and from the jails. So Judicial Marshal Brian Clemens, pastry chef dude, he's the guy that he took that recrafted email and sent it on to the Fusion Center in the state police. Now, the Fusion Center is a federal agency, but because the feds knew that it wasn't a crime, they didn't convict me. But yet the state of Connecticut and the prosecutor's office said, oh, we need to hurt this person, so let's just convict him of a crime anyways. So I was arrested with 2 SWAT teams that came to my house on the Friday, August 29th. They had 2 up-armored armadillos and about 75 SWAT people here with guns, loaded guns, and pointed at me and pointed at my house, and they wanted to basically kill me. They wanted me to resist in some way, shape, or form. I was actually working for Citigroup that day. I was home. I was just working in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, and I came out barefoot. And there was no resistance. I didn't commit any crime. I had no reason to think I committed a crime. And they arrested me for what they said, threatening and harassment of a judge.
After a year and a half, I was awarded full custody. If it was vice versa, a woman and man, it wouldn't have lasted that long. I think there's definitely an issue with the rights of a man when it comes to his child.
Dr. Carlos Rivera, pediatrician, got divorced and ended up paying $15,000 a month to his ex. After paying $492,000 in 4 years, he still ended up having to go to jail for 6 months. Dr. Rivera has been forced into early retirement from his beloved profession due to finances and severe depression. He's been alienated from 2 of his children. He's been left with nothing. Yet, this isn't enough. His ex still wants him behind bars. Again. Even his ex's boyfriend thinks this is wrong.
Do I think you're getting a shaft? Yes, I do.
So how is this happening? How is the system allowing this to go on?
What more do they want from you? They they destroyed your life. I mean, I don't think I'm overstating it. They destroyed your life. They destroyed your relationship with 3 of your children. They're two of your children, working on the other 2. They destroyed your career. They created this situation. Now they're asking for the court to come in again. What more do they want?
The hard part is losing the career was stressful, and that's something I could move past. It's the children. Losing 2 of my children to alienation, having the next 2 threatened because they reside with their mother. I never thought that anybody be capable of such cruelty. And it saddens me that I thought at some point her family would stop her and say enough is enough. But unfortunately, I walked past one family member who was giving me dirty looks and stares on the way in. And it just saddens me. I think that how much can you do to a person? And the career and money is one thing, but my children are another. And I pray that this ends one day soon, because it's really become difficult.
I mean, what I find unbelievable is they turned you into the bad guy. You're the victim. You are the victim. You wanted to be divorced, move on. You were willing to pay plenty of money. You know, your wife had custody, or your ex-wife, you let her have custody, you had your career. Well, they're turning you into the bad guy that you spent 6 months in jail. For people watching this, you've already spent 6 months in prison.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I used to have a good relationship with professional colleagues, and everyone keeps a distance, a pretty cold distance from me now. And after this point, I don't hear from anybody at all. No one to say, hey, what happened? So I'm pretty isolated. And, if it wasn't for my children, I probably would relocate. It's been difficult.
So what we're going to do is, so now you have a court appearance today. I think it's for 9:30 in the morning, up on the 6th floor with Judge Cheryl Joseph, who we don't know. We have at the show. We haven't had any experience with her, and we're just hopeful that she'll do the right thing, which is to just let you go on with your life. Don't let enough of the destruction end it. My feeling, being experienced with the courts, is they're going to adjourn it because that's the name of the game. Make this drag on, and to some extent, hope that maybe you kill yourself. Hope that something horrible happens. They don't have to deal with it, or you just give up, or you have no money, so you're done.
Unfortunately, I've had bad experiences in the past with Judge Luft and Judge Lenore. I was happy to see a different judge this time around. I have a lot of hope that in this case, Judge Joseph will finally be able to straighten this out, because I'm hopeful.
You're an optimistic type of guy, but the problem is where we are. The place is run by the Chief Judge Randall Henricks, who's corrupt himself. If you got the guy at the top, and you're not saying it, you probably don't even know him, I'm telling you, the man is corrupt. And there's many more judges. I promise everybody, we're in June of 2016. There are more judges that are going to go down because now people are starting to look at it. And I'm also saying right now, Judge Henricks, who is corrupt, is going to go down too.
The courts have a financial incentive to take our children from us, to take us as parents, most often fathers, but also mothers. They reduce us down to visitors to justify child support order. And when they justify child support order, the state then receives federal funding through what's known as Title IV-D of the Social Security Act.
When the ball stopped bouncing, she finally had enough.
She took me to court for willful contempt to not pay child support.
I would say roughly $350,000, $400,000 in lawyer fees.
Which was amazing to me because I paid over $494,000 to her.
Parental alienation is such a ubiquitous problem that it has taken family law court, which was set up to help children, and it has now turned it into a business. It is a $50 billion a year industry.
One of the people I worked with, I asked them, what do you, they were an activist, and I said, you're on the ground, what's a big problem you see? And the activist said, biggest problem I see is corrupt custody evaluators. And at that point, I'd never heard of a custody evaluator. I didn't know anything about that. And that was my original introduction into the world of divorce and custody matters. And this activist put out an email or something on their newsletter, got a bunch of phone calls back, and one of the people who called me, it was a couple weeks later, was a guy named Chris Mackney. And I spoke to Chris at the end of October. And we spoke on and off, and then on December 29, 2013, he killed himself. And if I didn't step in and tell his story would be, his legacy would be that he was a crazy man, killed himself because he was mentally unstable, and all of the things which were done to him as a result of his divorce would go unnoticed. And so that's why I wrote the book. It's called Bullied to Death.
The importance of having a father in your life, like I said, is structure. Men, we make the difference. A man can walk in the room and the child will behave. But when the woman tells the child to do something, she may have a problem, but the man don't have to say anything. And I wish I, as a man, as a young boy, I wanted discipline. I wanted to be disciplined. I wanted that structure.
A real turning point in my divorce was when my children, they appointed a law guardian, called at the time. Now it's called attorney for the child. Some states call it attorney ad litem, guardian ad litem. And they appointed one. These are just loser lawyers. I call them ambulance chasers. They're people who can't make a living in the field, so they work for a quarter of the price that they normally work. They run around the courtroom with their tail between their legs, sucking up to the judges to try to get appointments while they're there.
So they hire one, a law guardian, and she interviews the kids. And here's an ironic thing is that they always tell you, don't discuss the divorce with the children. Keep the children out of the divorce. This is between you two. And what is the first thing these law guardians do? They come to my children, they say, who do you want to live with? Who do you want to have custody of you? These are 10-year-old children. How do you put this burden on a 10-year-old child? This person should be charged with child abuse for doing this. This is just the worst form, but it gets even worse. So they asked my 3 children. One is my stepson, he's the oldest, from a previous marriage. And one of the problems actually was that he said, look, I don't care who I live with. I love my mother, I love my father, and I would live with either one of them. I would be happy with either one. My son, who I had a very, very close relationship with, we had a lot of things in common. He was a very empathetic child. The only thing we didn't have in common was that he was a lot smarter than me. But as far as his empathy, his love for animals, his love for nature, just a very caring, sensitive person, and we really bonded. We were very, very, very close with each other. And, you know, I love him with all my heart. He was just a great, really, I could almost say he was a perfect child. And he told them that he would rather live with me. Then my youngest one, my daughter, tells them that she would rather live with my mother, but it's okay with her mother, but it's okay if she had to live with me, she would be okay with that too. And then the problem is, so now we go back to these meetings, and the law guardian tells us what the children said. So now my ex-wife, man, this looks bad for me, because now her biological son is saying he doesn't care if he has to live with me. My son is saying he wants to live with me, and my daughter's saying she'd rather live with the mother, but it's okay if she had to live with me. This looks horrible for her. So she goes on a vicious campaign to turn these kids around, to change their mind. And that just destroyed the children, because of course the courts say, don't tell the kids what we say. But she did it, realizing there's no repercussions to what she did, because really now I come to know she was probably more advanced than me, or her lawyer was smarter, and told her, look, they don't give a shit what women do. You can lie, commit perjury, break every rule. They're not gonna put you in jail. You're not gonna lose custody. Don't worry about it. Do whatever you want to do. So she went on this path of trying to turn the kids against me. In fact, I heard her one day tell my son, if you are ever nice to your father again, I will never love you. I'll never talk to you, and you will be dead to me. This is well documented in my forensic report, where she denied it, and I said, well, I'll tell you what, if I can prove it, then I'll give up custody. If I can't prove it, I'll give up custody. If I could prove that it's true, I would expect that you would give up custody too. And the law guardian said, well, the forensic psychologist said, well, that's a good deal, because if you didn't do it, take Gary's deal. You'll get custody and he'll walk away.
The majority of America's social ills are due to fatherless homes, but the corruption in family court is what's been the key factor in this horrific and ubiquitous problem. Every child deserves to be nourished and loved by both parents.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Hey, what's up, man?
What's up?
I miss you, man.
I miss you too.
How you been? How old are you today? Huh?
7.
Yes, sir. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, man. Hey.
Yes.
What you doing?
Nothing, just walking around the plaza.
Walking around the plaza? Huh?
I said, we just walking around the plaza looking for a store for me to go get my money, use my money on a toy.
Oh, how much money you got?
$7.
Oh man, I gotta give you some money too.
Oh.
You in Atlanta? Why you keep hanging up?
That's my mom. She keeps taking the phone from me. Yes, it is.
Man, I miss you so much, man. I can't wait to see you.
I can't wait to see you.
Huh?
Say bye before you hang up. Alright, bye.
What?
Bye.
Why? Why you gotta go? Why you saying bye?
now, I've been treated like a criminal. I've been lied to, lied about, humiliated beyond anything I could have ever imagined, and I've been treated like a piece of scum by every judge involved in this case. As I put this story together and pieced together and had to put it on a graphic because it's so complicated and showing the ties of the people involved, I started becoming more aware that this happens all the time. These are the attorneys that at the firm that represented me: Drew Parker, Rob Parker, and Doc Halliday. Doc and Drew had been partners for over 30 years, and after my trial and what I described earlier, their partnership was dissolved, again, reportedly because Rob Parker was having an affair with Doc's wife, Mary. This is my ex-wife's attorney, G. Edward Murphy. Moving over, this is the Peoria County Court Administrator, Rena Parker. Again, she is the wife of Drew Parker and the mother of Rob Parker. If you follow the arrow over here, you can see that her tie to Joe Billy McDade, and that he mentored her in 1978. And then moving over, you can see that Joe Billy McDade and Mary McDade were married. At the time I created this, I thought they were still married, but my understanding is that they're divorced. But Mary McDade still has over a 35-year tie to the Parker family, and yet she was a deciding judge on my appeal. This is a picture off my wife's Facebook page, my ex-wife's Facebook page, with her and Mary Halliday 3 weeks after my divorce was final, obviously celebrating their success in Las Vegas. This is Judge Michael Reisinger, the judge at my divorce trial. He's a racist, that he bases his decisions for blacks on how they dress and their attitudes, and yet he's allowed to remain on the bench. Next is Kate Gorman, who took over my divorce case in Peoria County. Her father is John Gorman, who is also a U.S. District Judge and has worked side by side with Joe Billy McDade for years. You can see that the Parkers contributed to Kate Gorman's campaign contribution. Here is Clarence Darrow, who was assigned my malpractice case against the law firm of Parker and Halliday. He just happens to be the father-in-law, or Sarah Darrow, a U.S. District Judge, who is taking over cases for Joe Billy McDade. And it's no surprise that Clarence Darrow dismissed my malpractice case, and now it's in the appellate court. With my malpractice case being in the appellate court, I fully expect that I'm going to need to have a larger board and add 3 additional judges onto my chart, because I have small hopes that that'll be decided in my favor based on what I've experienced over the past 5 years in the Illinois family court system.
My name is Henry Stokes, owner of Trilogy Cigar Lounge and Tailored Ash. I was blessed to have my father in my life, active in my life. My mother has 6 children, 5 different fathers, and of them, I truly was the only one who had a consistently active father in my life. And so I was, looking at that dynamic, I look back now and see that my mom had 5 boys, 1 girl, and of the 5 boys, I'm the only one who doesn't have a police record, who hasn't been to prison, who doesn't have multiple, baby mothers. The only one who graduated high school, the only one who went to college, the only one who was able to advance myself. And it was really because I had a man in my life to say, here is what hard work looks like. And I was so determined to not disappoint my dad that I stayed away from trouble. Even though trouble was easily to get into as a young guy, I stayed away from trouble because of that. And I remember times when I would be in Miami with my mother and my other brothers, and it was just, they had this sense about just doing whatever, because my mom, again, couldn't control them. So there was no make sure you're home or do your homework. You know, they were dropping out of school and really hanging around the older guys in the neighborhood who they looked up to as father figures, but these guys were, you know, some of the hardened criminals, some guys who were heavy into street activity, so which led my brothers into that same space. And unfortunately led to my youngest brother being murdered past December 2015. But for me, I had my dad who would say, you know, get home, get your grades done, you know, make sure you finish school. All those things were important to him, so they became important to me. And I never really had this situation where I was looking for that affection from a man or looking for that, you know, validation from a man to even show me what a man was, because I had a man who was there, who was picking me up from school, who was at my football games, who was at my practices, and really showing me what unconditional love truly was.
I didn't have my biological father to be there for me, to talk to me, guide me, and help walk me through things. That's pretty much what I wanted. I wanted to be walked through some things. I wanted to be showed some things. But he wasn't there to show them to me. So since he wasn't there to show them to me, I had to do them all by myself. And naturally, I'm not looking for the better things. I'm looking for the things that's fast. If he was around, I think I would have been more able to slow down, to see how he got his car, to see how he got his money, to hear that he went into the service, to hear that he did college, to hear that he had these degrees, because then it would have showed where I was from. But since I never had nobody like that around me, my step-pops did crack cocaine. My step-pops drive trucks and was off and on, off in and out of my life, all my life. So this wasn't no influence. This was nobody that I could go to. So I couldn't see myself going to him. But my biological father, he took time out. He took time out. And if he was there, I'm sure that 15 years that I said I just did, meaning last year, April 2015, got out of the halfway house, I'm positive I wouldn't be there.
So I didn't have to worry about how am I gonna eat? How am I gonna get school clothes? All I focused on was school and doing right. And it completely changed the trajectory of my life, completely opened my eyes to different experiences. And it allowed me to grow into a man versus trying to become a man at an age where you shouldn't even be thinking about that.
Let me be clear about something. The things that I did was nothing to laugh at. These things was real life. These things take life. We shot people, we stabbed people, people died, families was lost. You know, when you have your back against the wall and somebody have a gun to your head and tell you don't have no other choice but to shoot somebody, and the influence is way less than when a person have a gun to your head. So when I'm sitting up there and I'm selling drugs, yeah, we was hard. Yeah, we was doing our thing. But you want to know what? When somebody got that gun at you and they shooting at you and you don't have no choice but to defend yourself and kill somebody, then you do what you have to do. But you want to know what? It's always consequences to that. Because now you're going to sit in prison. Now you're going to sit in a 150-man open dorm, listening to men with other men having sex, with homosexual activities, men violating your privacy, men coming in, stealing from you, you taking showers with all these men all at the same time, you not being able to be next to a woman, you can't be affectionate with a woman, you can't do nothing. You eat, you sleep, you shit when they tell you to.
A father is a diamond. And no matter what the circumstances are with the father and the mother, you cannot diminish the power and the effect of having a father in a child's life.
And the reason why I did 15 years is because my biological father wasn't in my life.
I had a client that I was counseling. It was a 36-year-old man. And at one point, he had experienced fatherlessness. I'm sitting across the table. Guy had hands like sledgehammers. He was huge, he was big, and this was a great big guy. He was like 6'4". And I'm talking to him and I'm asking him this question, and I say to him, who taught you how to pee? He rears back for a second. He gets confused. He looks frustrated. You can see the range of emotions that are going on through his mind. And all of a sudden, these tears start coming down his face. He's absolutely bawling. And I pause him and I say, what's wrong? Where is all of this coming from? Tell me about the tears. He says, you know, no one ever taught me how to pee. In fact, when I was in middle school and I was in high school, I got teased because every time I went into the locker room in the boys' bathroom, I had to put the seat down to pee. Because my mom taught me how to pee. My dad was never there. They were always fighting with one another. And these are the emotional struggles and things that some people carry with them throughout their lives. And oftentimes they go untouched. They go untalked about. And they're repressed feelings of resentment, of regret, and this anger that people carry around with them.
I feel blessed by the Creator to even be able to sit and talk to you on this platform, because I got an arm full of people, an arm full of them that did not make it. And I did everything they did. We hung together every day. They did everything I did. But some of them will never get to see their children, whether it be through life in terms in prison or, you know, they're pushing up daisies right now. And these are people that I love dearly. These are people who I knew as people despite what society called us. Gang members, thugs, gangsters, whatever. These are people I knew as children when we all ran around poor, playing in abandoned buildings and dilapidated tenement homes. These were kids at one point who were struggling, who were hurting, who were in need of their fathers.
There was another child that was 8 years old, and his mother brought him into an office, and she said, fix him. And it was just her. She had been warring with the father, even though the father wanted to be a part of the child's life. And she wanted this child fixed. One of the teachers had reported and said that we really need him to be classified as ADHD. Now, nothing was wrong with the child, and I talked with the mother, and I ended up talking to the child. Come to find out, the child was acting up simply because every time he got in trouble, every time he acted out in class, the teacher would then call his father. The principal would then call his father, not the mother, but his father. So because he was acting up, because he was getting into all of this trouble, this was a chance and an opportunity for him to see his dad. And that's the only thing he wanted. He didn't need a diagnosis. He didn't need drugs. All he wanted was the attention of the father. So sometimes the emotional turmoil of parents and the resentment and all of the things and the frustrations and disappointments that are going on as parents, we get caught in this windstorm of irrelevance, and we forget about the most important piece of this thing, the child.
At the end of the day, we brought this beautiful life into the world that didn't ask to come here. And so we have to put our all into shaping, develop, nurturing, loving this child together so they can grow up and have a chance.
Just everybody in the process has absolute immunity, which means they have no incentive to behave positively, and in fact they have lots of incentive to behave negatively because there's lots of money to be made as long as there's animosity in the process.
Those type of laws, to me, like I said, once again, give women or men incentive to have kids by people who are either successful or prone to be successful, because then they can go in and legally alienate the parent and force the parent to pay money, which the system wins and the parent wins, but the kid truly loses.
The best thing to happen to the family courts is movements like this, is people standing up, telling their stories, taking to social media. It's the best thing that could happen because it's bringing awareness, it's bringing attention. Because most people, they hear that, well, yeah, mothers get custody, fathers are on child support. They understand that, but they don't understand the injustice until it hits their front doorstep. Then when it hits their front doorstep, they come in and they're just appalled and they're amazed at the family court system. But so the best thing to happen to the family courts is what's going on right now, is people telling their stories, people here protesting, people here rallying, people here expressing what they want and exercise their constitutional rights to do so.
I can't imagine if I was denied access to my children like hundreds and hundreds of parents that I've been exposed to are going through right now. The heartbreak, the frustration, the anger, the humiliation, the suicides, them being put in jail on a regular basis. I'm going to take the facts that I have in my case where it shows the corruption, the collusion, and try and drive change.
At the end of the day, it's all about the kids. It's all about the kids when they grow up. You know, working where I work, seeing grown men still talks about how their father did them, how the mother not allowed the child to be in their life as a grown man. It's a problem there. It's really a problem. And a lot of times when we have kids, things gonna go wrong. They gonna go wrong. But at the end of the day, we gotta do what's best for the kids. What's best for the kids is having a mother and a father.
So if we want to have healthy children, we want to have a good economy, we want to have low rates of domestic violence, we don't want teenage pregnancies and childhood depression, well, guess what? Family courts, you need to start doing your job.
What do we want? Justice! What do we want? What do we want? Justice! What do we want?
So we must stand together as woman and man, as we demand the repeal of Title 4D, as we demand the repeal of Title 4E. We will stand together and no longer allow the government to dictate the outcome of our children's lives. We will no longer allow the government to financially gain off of the demise of our families. Changing the laws is one thing, but the repeal is real.
Sorry that I'm not there. It's not that I don't care, but your moms won't let me. One day I know you'll see. It was lies written about me. When you need me, I'll be right here, right here, right here. Sorry that I'm not there. It's not that I don't care, but your moms won't let me. One day I know you'll see. It was lies written about me. When you need me, I'll be right here, right here, right here. We all wanna fight for the equal rights put in the media's light, but people just don't see what I'm talking about here really ain't just me. We in 2015, not 83. Ask any professional what the babies need. That's a mom's and a dad, not just half of that. And it looks to me like we're lacking that, cause the system is biased and that's a fact. Judge Susan Amini didn't believe me out here in King County. My daughter's without me. When a mom wants to take a kid, it's that easy. Ex parte and there's no peace treaty. Christine Robinson was the bailiff involved. Looked at me like this is all my fault. Delayed my time on a 5-day trial. Gave me 2 days, said I would be fine though. Tell me now how they rush this process. The statistics expose this nonsense. 85% in favor of the mom. How can a working man try those odds? Fight for my time, how am I wrong? Stood for my rights, it cost me it all. Held my ground now for my daughter. Show me the evidence why I can't be a father.
Casualties of war. Warriors against the regime.
Buddy, don't let go. Daddy's on his way and I'm in control. Hold on, Luca, honey, don't let go. Daddy's on his way and I'm in control. Hold on, buddy, don't let go. Daddy's on his way and I'm in control. Hold on, Luca, honey, don't let go. Daddy's on his way and I'm in control. If I could have one wish, and that wish would be my kids. We'd be out doing shit that all the other families did. Taking you to practice, look into gymnastics. Watch your first backflip, that's the shit that I miss. Tell me what did I do? They don't deserve this. Tell me what's the purpose to reverse this curse which social services has placed upon us. Yeah. Hold on, buddy, don't let go. Daddy's on his way and I'm in control. Hold on, Luca, honey, don't let go. Daddy's on his way and I'm in control. Hold on, buddy, don't let go. Daddy's on his way and I'm in control. Hold on, Luca, honey, don't let go. Daddy's on his way and and I'm in control. I don't always do what's right, but I do what's needed. I'm the father's right champion, I can't be defeated. Without you in my life, kids, I feel incompleted. The courts are so blind, but I'ma make them see it. You gotta believe it, his daddy loves you both. I just want you to know that. Even though it seems hopeless, don't give up hope yet. Come on, sing it with me now. Sing it with me now, yeah. Hold on, Makai, buddy, don't let go. Daddy's on his way and I'm in control. Hold on, Luca, honey, don't let go. Daddy's on his way and I'm in control. Hold on, Makai, buddy, don't let go. Daddy's on his way and I'm in control. Hold on, Luca, honey, don't let go. Daddy's on his way and I'm in control.
Hold on, baby. Daddy's on his way.
My beautiful wife, Vanessa McLean, for always holding me down and having so much patience. My daughter, Ebony McLean, for your unconditional love and understanding. Ebbs' mother, Jackie White, for never taking me through any of the bullshit that we just watched. My brothers, Mark and Malik McLean, for always being there for me, right or wrong. Imam Fatin, for always keeping it 100 and always loving my moms. My mother-in-law, Edith Quiroga, for raising such a gem of a daughter and always being so cool. And last, but definitely not least, my beautiful, strong, loving mother for giving me life, everything you've taught me, and for raising 3 boys to men on your own, along with any and everyone that has looked out for me or helped me through this process in any way. I love you all.
Casualties of war, warriors against the regime.